Hello, this is Eliseo Rodriguez, and this is the Arian Orthodox Church. Today we're going to be looking into an interesting topic about Socinianism, Unitarianism, Ebionitism. It's called several different things here. I'm calling this the death of deception because I feel like the deception of Unitarianism or Socinianism or Ebionitism, whatever you want to call it, its actual name, it needs to be taken care of. It's a horrible deception, and it's heretical, and we need to deal with that. So heretical humanism is what I'm calling it as well. So evidences of pre-transformational existence, refuting deniers of the pre-existent Messiah. Colossians chapter 1 verse 15, John 1:12. Apologize about that. Visit us at Twitter at Arianismtoday.com. Been posting a couple of things here and there. Follow me and I'll follow you. Follow along with us on the Bible. If you don't have a Bible, the Faith Life Study Bible app would be perfect for your Android or Apple device. And I recommend that you have one with you at all times. It's really something that we should be looking into, having one of these apps, because we can conversate in the faith life groups through the Bible. So we can look into that a little bit. The Arian Orthodox Church group on Facebook, that's where we mainly are congregated at. That's a great place to go for just finding friends and talking about the Bible and so on and so forth. Faith Life group, just search Arianism and you'll find us. Let's get those mobiles silenced and get some clear attention here. Arianismtoday.com, it's our website. And here we go. Colossians chapter 1 verse 15 through 17, talking about Jesus and who Jesus is. What we want to look at here is, we were having a discussion with some people on Facebook about pre-existence or pre-transformational Christ, and they're Socinian, so they believe that Jesus did not exist in any time before Mary. And so this verse and John 1:12 are the best verses to refute this. So it says here, he is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. So what I'm going to propose to you is that what the topic is, what the context is that Jesus is preeminent or first in a lot of things because God has given it to him, and he's going to point out where what Paul is doing is pointing out the obvious and most powerful places of where God has put Jesus as first in all things, and he's going to point them out here, some very notable ones, so that people can understand that yes, Jesus is first in all things. So that's the context. What a Socinian is seeing when he reads this, the context he believes is saying is that, before we get into the explanation, is they see the firstborn of all creation. They say, okay, what creation are they talking about now? And then they read down further, and it says, let me see here. They read down further, and it says, he is also head of the body, the church, and he is the beginning, the firstborn of the dead. And so they say, see, that's where it's talking about him being the firstborn of the dead. So he's the firstborn of the dead. So, and we're talking about the firstborn of all creation. Well, it's not talking about the firstborn of everything that's created, but it's talking about Jesus being the firstborn of the new creation. And then he's the firstborn of the new creation. So that's what it means. And it sounds a little bit plausible, right? It sounds right. I mean, Jesus is the firstborn of the new creation. Obviously, he's the first one to have resurrected before all the others. So he would be technically the first one there. And not only that, Jesus says, I'm going to prepare a place for you. And he's technically through whom all those things are being made. So when they see through him, these other verses that it says, through him all things were made, and so on and so forth, they're seeing that Jesus is talking about the new creation and him being involved in the new creation. So I can understand where you're coming from. But here's where the problem comes in. So it says, for by him all things were created. So it says, by him all things. All means every member of. And then you have to add the category. So every member of creation, he is the first one born of every member of creation. So he's the first one who was born of all the creations. So that, first of all, is anti-Trinitarian, because it's not, Jesus is not uncreated. He was born, he came into existence at a certain point. He is the first thing that is ever created. That's why he's at the beginning, and that's why he is the beginning of the creation of God. So, so that's what it says there, firstborn of all creation. And it says all there, so it's not saying the new creation. If it said firstborn of creation, it could be talking about the new creation. It would be more plausible then. But when it says all creation, then it means every single member of creation. That would be this earth, this heavens, all of this here would be what it's talking about as well. So that means that even these creations on this side, the visible ones, are the ones he's born before. Okay? So that's the context here. So you cannot remove, I mean, you have to remove the word all there to get that understanding that you're trying to give, or that they're trying to give, of the Socinian idea that it's talking about the new creation. You have to remove the word all. Then you can say it's talking about the new creation. It's undiscernible either way. It's ambiguous if it was not there. But since it says all, that means everything. Everything here, everything in the future, everything ever. He was born first. He was created first. Okay. So then in the next sentence says, for by him all things were created. Again, all things were by him. All things were created. So God used him to create all the other things. So you have to exist before all of the things exist. Again, all things is used. All creation is used here. All things used over here. So now it's all things. Now anything that can be a thing, all of them, every member of the things category, which is everything, he is whom by all things were created. All things, everything, every member of things, he was involved in their creation. Undeniably now, it's not talking about the new creation only. It's talking about the new creation, it's talking about the old creation, it's talking about everything. Everything. Literally everything. If Paul didn't mean everything, he wouldn't have put all there. It's there twice now. It says both in the heavens and on the earth. Okay, so it's talking about in the heavens and the earth. This heavens and the earth, or the new heavens and the earth. Both of them. Visible and invisible. So the visible earth and the invisible earth. The visible heavens and the invisible heavens that we can't see. All things. Jesus was first born first before all of them, and and by him all those things, the visible ones and the invisible ones, the ones that exist now and the ones that will exist in the future, are through him. Definitely not talking about just after Mary. Okay? Whether thrones, dominions, authorities, rulers, authorities, all things have been created through him. Again, the word all is there again. All things, everything, every member of things have been created through him. That's the third all. All things have been created through him, for by him all things were created. Firstborn of all creation. Definitely talking about everything. No doubt. And then it says, for he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Again, for a fourth time, all things. All things. It's not talking about the new creation. It's talking about all things. Every member of things. Every individual member of the things category. He holds them together. He is by them. They all exist by him. They are all created after him. It's amazing. Okay, so let's move on. That's the fourth all. Okay. Then it says he is the head of the body. So now we've got another issue here. It's talking about him being the first of creation, and how he is first and before all things, and all things are under him, and all things hold together, and all of that to prove how deeply he is at the beginning. And then it says he is the head of the body. So not only is he first, not only is he born first, and all things exist through him, and all that, he's involved in their creation and existence. He is their authority. He is their head. He has authority over all things, the church, the body of Christ, and obviously all these other things. And he is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead. Now it's talking about resurrection. Now it's saying and. So, and also on top of everything else that we're talking about, he is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead. It's not saying that all that I'm telling you here is that he's the firstborn of the new creation, and that the new creation are held together by him only, and all of these things, and that's it. The new creation is held together by Jesus only, and all the rulers and authorities and powers that are going to exist there are only through Jesus, and whether they're visible or invisible over there, no, it's not just talking about that. It's not just talking about that. It's talking about everything existed after Christ existed, and then was brought into existence. And then it says, and on top of all that, and he's the beginning of the firstborn of the dead. So now we're talking about resurrection. So that's one subject. They use the word and to say also, not only that, but also he is the firstborn from the dead. He's the first one to resurrect. Okay? He's the first fruit of that resurrection. So that he himself will have first place in everything. There's the context. The context says he's the firstborn creature. He's the firstborn creation. He's the first to have come into existence. And he's first in the new creation as well. He's saying Jesus is the firstborn in both instances. Jesus is the firstborn, first creation in this heavens and earth. He's the first one to come into this heavens and earth, and he is the firstborn in this heavens and earth. He came into existence first, here, with us. Okay, I mean, not with us, we weren't existing yet. He's first, and then we came after him. He was first in this space-time continuum. He came into existence first. He was actually born before and outside of time, but whatever. Then, he's the firstborn of the dead. So he's the first one to ever come into the new heaven and the new earth, into that promised land. When he resurrected, he's the first one to have that promise and go into the promised land and have that promise being made. And through him, all of those things also are being created. And by him, all those things are going to exist again. And it's showing you a cycle. Jesus came into existence, and then he came in as a man. Well, he came into existence. God used him to create all things. Then he came as a man and saved us. And now he's the first one to go into and start creating the new world, the new universe, because he said, I go to prepare a place for you. So God's using him again to create the new heaven and the new earth. So that cycle begins again. He's being used by God to create a new heaven and a new earth, and he's going to do all that for us, and then we're going to go in there and come in after him. He's first in that universe, and he's first before this universe, and he helped to create this universe. So he's the first one to exist, and then this universe, he's the first one to exist before that universe, and he's the first one in that universe. So it's showing how God has placed Jesus as being the first in this universe. He's existed first. He was used by God to bring all of these things into existence. God's going to destroy all of this. We're going to be taken out of this universe and placed in that universe. And Jesus was there first, existing outside of it, bringing it into existence. and then we're going to go in there. Jesus is going to go in there. It's going to be the temple of God in there. And it's showing you not that Jesus is only the first one to come into this promise and to be the first one and be used by God and all of that in the new heaven and the new earth. It's saying he was used in all creation. He's the first one of all creation, before all things, all. Talking about everything, not just the new, the old as well. Same thing. God's not going to change. He used Jesus to create this world. He used Jesus to create this world. He's going to use Jesus to create that world, and on and on and on. That's what we need to get through our heads. That's what we need to understand. The context is that Jesus is first, that God's placing him as the first one on purpose. And we look at it. His role here, his role in the new creation, all the same. God puts Jesus first. Jesus goes first. Jesus is always first. That's the point. That's the context. Not this absolutely limited view that it's only the new creation. Not what it's talking about. So therefore, Socinianism, the Unitarian idea, the only Jesus was born only after, all the arguments about Matthew, all the arguments about Luke, and how it doesn't say anything about preexistence and all of that, doesn't matter. You have to get rid of Paul, you have to get rid of John to keep your little belief system. And not only that, the entire church never rejected John, never rejected Paul, never rejected Matthew, never rejected Luke. Why? Why did the early church not say these documents are not, that we weren't taught this? Because they were taught it. And Matthew and Luke, you have to prove that they disagreed. He didn't write it down. Matthew didn't. Luke didn't. But that doesn't mean that they disagreed. You have to prove that they disagreed. And you can't do that. But I can show you here, and the evidence that the early church understood, that Matthew and Luke understood John the same way that John believes, the reason, the evidence that I say exists is that they kept John. John always was in the canon, always accepted scripture, always accepted words, never thrown away, never not accepted. Okay? The whole church history. I don't know of any group that has thrown out John in the early church. Who cares about right now? The early church. Doesn't happen because it's not inconsistent. It is not inconsistent with the belief system of the apostles and the people who knew the apostles, and they got the book of Matthew and they saw John. They're like, yeah, okay. Matthew said the same things. He just didn't write it down. So you would have a faction at the beginning if there was a problem. Okay? Somebody would write a story about how John was heretical and coming up with this crazy stuff. That's what would have happened. But it didn't happen because they all agreed. Okay? Matthew can be writing only what he saw. He's going to write an eyewitness testimony. He didn't see Jesus in the beginning, so he's not going to write about that. Luke said he's writing what eyewitness accounts gave him. No one's going to be an eyewitness to Jesus being the firstborn of creation besides God, the only one that's seen him, that's seen that eyewitness. God is the only eyewitness to Jesus coming into existence first before all things. So he's not going to get to find some guy, walking around kicking dirt, saying that he was there when Jesus was created. So all of Luke is eyewitness accounts. You're never going to get that from eyewitness accounts. Matthew didn't put anything in there about that. But it doesn't mean he didn't believe it. Okay? So Luke's not a problem. Matthew, he didn't bring it up for whatever reason. But you do have to understand, and this is the same thing that I say about John, the understanding of who the Logos was and who the Messiah was, the understanding of the Logos and the Messiah, they had an understanding that the Messiah was supposed to do a couple of things, some things, and they knew about the Memra, they knew about the Logos, the Jewish understanding of who that was. And you see that the prophecy, like concerning Eve and her seed, and she said, I got a man from the Lord, or from before the Lord, which was like standing before the Lord. She was expecting some man or someone from heaven to come and vindicate her and destroy the devil, step on his head, and her watch the serpent get punishment. Although that's not what God meant. She was expecting somebody to show up right then and there from God to do these things. So anyways, so this verse is absolutely destroys the Socinian Unitarian Ebionite lies. Okay, we can move on though. Look at the rest. It says, and through him to reconcile all things to himself, having made peace through the blood of the cross. Through him, I say, whether things on earth or things in heaven, and although you were formerly alienated and hostile in mind, engaged in evil deeds, yet he has now reconciled you in his flesh, in his fleshly body through death, in order to present you before him holy and blameless and beyond reproach. If indeed you continue in the faith, firmly established and steadfast, and not moved away from the hope of the gospel that you have heard, which was proclaimed in all creation under heaven. See that? Look at this, where he says, and not moving away from the hope of the gospel that you have heard, which was proclaimed in all creation under heaven. Do you see how Paul, in this verse, categorizes and limits the category? So he says all creation under heaven. So that means all the creations under this heaven. That's the heaven. That's where all the gospel was proclaimed. The gospel hasn't been proclaimed in a new heaven and a new earth. No one's preaching the gospel over there. So he has to compartmentalize what he's talking about. All creation under heaven. So that's limiting the understanding to only this earth. Okay? Now, he could have done that at the top. If he was only talking about the new creation, he could say, firstborn, or the firstborn of all creation under the new heaven. That would have done it. Or the firstborn of all creation in the new Jerusalem. Right? That would have worked. He's only talking about the new kingdom. But he's not talking about that universe. He's talking about this one. He categorized, he compartmentalized, and he cut off all idea of it being all things, because the gospel hasn't been preached under that heaven. So he can't say all heavens, right? He's saying no, all creation under heaven has been preached. The gospel has been proclaimed. So that's how you limit the understanding to one planet or the other, or one universe or one earth to another. And he didn't do that at the beginning. So because he shows you that he has the propensity or the capability to do it, and he didn't do it only a couple of verses above, then he never intended to do it. Okay? Let's move on here. John chapter 1, verse 12. So, destroyed Socinian Unitarianism there. Now we're going to move on to here in John. So, Socinians the world over want to say the Logos isn't Jesus. It's an idea, it's a plan, it's a purpose, it's a blueprint, it's a note, it's whatever. It's not Jesus. Whatever it is, it's not Jesus. And so what I look at this verse. It says, but as many as receive him. To a Socinian, that's not him. It shouldn't say him there. It should say it, because they believe that it's not a person. It's a impersonal, poetry or something. I don't know, something, a piece of paper, some sort of word that was recorded. I don't know what they believe it's a thing. It's not a, even though, in this chapter it says that in him was life and all of that, and that life was what the life that we got and all that. That doesn't seem to matter. It's still a lifeless thing, regardless of if it has life or not. It is a lifeless and personal thing. But it says, but as many as receive it, according to Socinians, but as many as receive it, to them it gave the right to become children of God, even those who believe in its name. Okay? Because it's not Jesus, right? So, if you take it this way, there is an absolutely huge, huge dilemma for Unitarians. If this is not Jesus, if it's not talking about Jesus, and it's not talking about Jesus, it's been the Logos the whole time. It's been talking about the Logos the whole time, except for when it mentioned John. So, it's talking about the Logos the whole time. And it's saying here that as many as receive the Logos. So, let's say that they say it's a blueprint or a plan. Let's do the blueprint. Let's use the blueprint. But as many as receive the blueprint, to them the blueprint gave the right to become the children of God, even to those who believed in the blueprint's name. Now, because Socinians don't believe that this is Jesus, you've got a big problem. Because there's only one way to become a child of God. The Bible says that there's only one way to be saved. And to be saved is to become a child of God. You cannot become a child of God without being saved. So there's only one way to be saved. There's only one way to become a child of God, and that's through Jesus. There's no other way to become a child of God. No way. Any good Christian, any competent Christian will have to agree that there is no other way to become a child of God except through Jesus. So in this verse, it says that this Logos, if you're a Socinian, it says that this Logos, if you find out the Logos' name, and if you receive the Logos itself is going to give you the right to become a child of God. That means that this Logos, without Jesus, if you can find this Logos, if you can receive the Logos, wherever that Logos is, whatever that blueprint is, whoever's harboring that blueprint, somebody needs to get it. If you can get that blueprint, you don't need Jesus to become a child of God. All you need is this blueprint. Okay? Do you see what I'm saying? This is a problem for Socinians because it's saying that there's another way to become a child of God apart from Christ. Because they don't believe it is Christ. You see the problem? And so because they're denying that this is the Logos is Jesus, they have to believe that there's another way to become a child of God. And therefore, you prove the heresy. You prove that notion is absolutely blasphemous. It's absolutely wrong. You cannot add to it. I talked to one of them and they said, oh no, it's talking about you have to receive this word, this Logos, if you receive it and all that stuff, but you have to get it through Jesus. That's not what it says here. It doesn't say you have to receive the Logos through Jesus. It didn't say that. Nowhere does it say that in the context. In the context, what we have now, it does not give you that. It says it's going to give you the right to become the children of God. It doesn't say it's going to give you the right, if you get it through Jesus, to become the Son of God. No. And that's where I got you. And that's where God has you. That's where John has you. John wrote this and he's so smart. He put this in here and it is absolutely a destroyer. Because if you're going to maintain that it's not the Logos, you're going to maintain that there is another way to be a child of God. That this verse says that you can become a child of God if you receive this Logos, who's not Jesus. If you receive this Logos, and then it will give you the right to become children of God without Jesus, because the Logos isn't Jesus. And those who believe in this Logos, the plan's name, whatever the name of the plan is, you have to believe in the name of that plan, not in the name of Jesus. Now remember that, because to them that's not Jesus. So it's not talking about the name of Jesus. It's talking about the Logos' name. And because you don't believe it's Jesus, that's somebody else's name. It ain't the name of Jesus. You see the problem? Absolutely fail. Fail, fail, fail. All Unitarians around the world, do you see your failure? You have another way to become a child of God. That is absolutely, apart from Christ, absolutely not true. That Logos is Jesus. You must agree that that Logos is Jesus. And the reason that it says that as many as receive him, or talking about the Logos, as many as receive the Logos, that the Logos gives them the right to become children of God, is because the Logos is Jesus. And because that's Jesus, it's talking about whoever receives Jesus. Whoever receives Jesus, that Jesus is going to give them the power to become the sons of God. Believe on his name. His name is Jesus, obviously. All of it fits. It's like a puzzle. If it's the Logos, you have a problem. You're adding another way to become a child of God. Another way to get saved. But if it's Jesus, if Jesus is the Logos, boom, everything fits together. No one has a problem. Everything's harmony. The Bible has harmony. Everything is harmonious. We're gonna believe Jesus is the Messiah. He is the only way to salvation. If you don't, maybe if you find out where that Logos is, you can get saved without Jesus. Because that's what you're saying. Even though you don't want to say it, even though you don't agree with it, even though you never intended to say that, even though you don't like it, it is what you're saying. Every single time you say that it's not Jesus, that the Logos isn't Jesus, every single time you're also saying this, whether you like it or not. And so by that, I say, that is the death of deception. That deception. I consider that dead. That's just me, though. So, faithlife.com, Arianism. Please visit us there. And I'm doing these groups. I think that it's a really good idea that you guys start going to this Faith Life group and becoming members, because that's where I'm going to start putting a lot of my stuff on there. Honestly, there's nobody on there now. I just started it, but putting people there. We have places to ask for prayer, places to look at the calendar. I can give you guys bulletins there. We can read the Bible together there. We have, just things like that. When I see something in my study, I'm going to be able to shoot it there right away. This is the best place to be. So I'm encouraging everyone to go to faithlife.com/Arianism, become a member of Faith Life, then become a member of our church, and let's move forward, okay? That is what we want, okay? That's where we want to go. So amen on that. So goodbye. I hope you guys have a good one. I appreciate you guys coming and being part of what we're doing today, and or what we're doing all the time. We've reached our 1,000th member in our Facebook group, and I'm excited about that. That's a blessing. It's been since 2013 that we started the group, or that I started the group, and now we're to 1,000 members, and it's growing all the time, and it's amazing. So I appreciate you guys. I hope you have a great week, and know that I'm here anytime you guys need prayer or have a question about something. So thank you very much. Have a good one. Bye.